right, hi everybody. Monday edition of the Hometown Sports Huddle here on WDBJ 7 Plus. Dave Walls here. It is a Monday, and if you just saw the 6 o'clock show, you know what I mean. For some reason, everybody's stumbling around a little bit. Still got a little bit of that weekend kind of malaise in their eyes, but we're going to kick out of it with a fascinating conversation. Our own Zach Card had a chance to sit one-on-one via Zoom with Katie Taylor. She's a sports psychologist and author who's written a new book, and in the book, she goes into history, about the hidden history, if you will, of women in football. Now, I've had a chance to listen to this entirely. This is a fascinating conversation about how long women have been in football, the reaction to them, and how it has evolved over the years. And if you think you know everything there is to know about the subject, like, oh, women in football have only been there for the last, 15 years or so, you are sadly mistaken. This is a fascinating conversation, and Zach Card did a great job with this. I really wanted to bring this to you today. So here's Zach Card and Katie Taylor talking about gridiron invasion.
Welcome back to the Hometown Sports Huddle, everybody. I'm your host, Zach Carr. Joined with me is author and sports psychologist Katie Taylor. She has recently just published a book called Gridiron Invasion, a history, the hidden history of women's football, that is Americans football, or American football. How did this come about? It was a bit of a surprise for me when I first looked into you and realized that you're British. You're a professor at Nottingham Trent University. How did American football come to take such a prominent place in your life?
It's a good question. I had friends, American friends, and they would invite me over for dinner on a Sunday evening and literally forced me to watch the NFL. And they said, pick a team, and if you do that, you'll have a reason to get more invested. And I'm a motorsport fan, so I had to pick Indianapolis, so I'm a Colts fan. And then I slowly got involved in the sport. I started coaching flag football at the college that I taught at. I then ended up getting involved with the GB men's flag team. And then when it came to doing a research project for my master's degree, I'd read Michael Oriad's King Football, in which he talks about the fact there were, maybe six, a half dozen or so girls who played. There's no reason to expect that there are very many. And I thought, this sounds like a challenge. So having been involved in the sport, I thought, let's have a look and see if that's really true, see if there is a bigger history out there.
And you did.
Yeah.
What was kind of the most surprising bit of information that you found in your research?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I guess the most surprising thing was just how long the history was. The fact that it goes back to the 1890s. So almost as long as men and boys have been playing the sport, women and girls have been there too. And in 1897, there was even an attempt at a professional league. So you had young women being paid $5 a game, according to the newspaper reports, which is a huge amount of money. Paying crowd. Playing in front of a paying crowd in a proper ground, full tackle football. But then the book's full of loads of other examples. In the 1910s, teams of girls beating teams of boys, which would have been, quite radical at the time. So just lots of examples of girls and women, I guess, breaking those barriers.
Yeah, so they have such a long history, and your book, at least in the beginning, half of kind of chronicles the upward kind of ups and downs of it. You talked about girls beating boys teams, and in the 1920s and 30s, some physical educators, PE teachers, as we call them here in the States, started to incorporate tackle football into women's education and the plan of that. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so there's a handful of examples where these members of staff introduced tackle football. They didn't necessarily last very long, but they certainly were scattered across the US. And it seems that they just thought that the girls should be able to take part in the same sorts of things as boys could do. I think they were also aware that girls were itching to do something a little bit more exciting than what they'd previously been experiencing. And it kind of fits with that pattern of the 1920s of being a bit of a golden age of sport in the US, and especially for women's sport. And then what you see is, as it goes into the 1930s, these opportunities sort of decline as concerns about competition become more prevalent. But yeah, in the 1920s, you do get these examples, which is amazing, really. So long ago.
Yeah. Talk about I guess the recent rise that we've seen in women playing American football, we've seen a huge increase in flag football recently. It feels like every year a bunch of new high schools add the program, more colleges are adding the program, and it's coming to the Olympics, and it's just 2 years. Talk about the kind of meteoric rise recently of women playing football.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting to see. When I was involved with the GB men's flag team, there was no women's equivalent. We didn't have a national team, and I was kind of fighting for one. And they said, "Oh, there's not enough women playing it, at lower levels." And I thought that's not true. But then a few years later, we got a national team, and now I think having those kind of role models has helped certainly in the UK. We've also got the NFL doing a huge amount, not just in the US. Obviously, they're supporting it as a collegiate sport. They're definitely encouraging it. We saw the Super Bowl advert just a couple of years ago that really emphasised it. But they're also supporting the game in this country. So they're putting on coaching clinics. They're bringing the sport into schools. So now we've got a lot of youngsters, including girls, being able to play the sport and play something that's different. It's not usual to what they've experienced before. And now we've got the Olympics coming up. There's goals, there's targets, there's international teams for them to be inspired by. So yeah, it's fantastic to see the growth of that's the flag side of the sport. And I think with the Olympics.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think we just cut out a little bit there. You're saying with the Olympics?
Yeah, I think with the Olympics, we're only going to kind of just see the sport continue to grow even more, not just here, not just in the US, but probably across the world as more people are introduced to the sport and how exciting and fast and fun it is.
Yeah. Going back just a little bit, as I was reading the beginning of your book and those, the 1800s into kind of the 1930s, I was really astounded being a journalist myself with some of the coverage of these women's teams. A lot of misogyny, I will say, from some of this coverage really, really appalled me. What did you make of some of the difference in coverage that you saw between some of the local papers and maybe some of the more national magazine type publications?
Yeah, so there really is a clear difference for the most part of the history. What you tend to find is that the local newspapers and those that are kind of more syndicated, like the Associated Press, were quite positive about girls playing, or neutral, one of the two. They certainly weren't negative. They tended to support what was happening. They often praised the girls and young women for what they were doing. But then the flip side is those newspapers a little further afield that probably didn't have the local knowledge, and they thought, well, this is funny. We'll kind of make fun. We'll try and be horrified by it, and all those sorts of things. Like you say, the misogyny, the jokes, those sorts of things. And that pattern is pretty clear throughout the history. The only time it really changes is in the post-World War II period and powder puff games, where everybody's making fun of it. But I think that's the product of a time in history where there was concern that if women were a bit masculine, they might be communists. So I think it kind of fits with those sorts of issues that were going on. But yes, I guess one of the things that surprised me is that there is a lot of positive coverage of the girls playing. Not everyone was seeing it as a joke, which was nice to see.
Earlier, you talked a little bit about the regionality of it, and there was pockets of girls playing American football across the United States. Why do you think there was such regionality, and why do you think they weren't as connected and weren't able to kind of develop and grow in a way that other sports have been able to kind of take over the whole country?
I think part of it is that there was a lack of awareness of other girls playing. Sometimes the examples of girls playing were just them setting up a team, and they wouldn't have been aware that other girls were playing it. And you read some of the newspaper reports, and it's very clear that people have got no idea of what's going on in other parts of the country, because they go, "Oh, these are the first girls to do this." Well, no. So there's a lack of awareness, which means that there's no kind of joined up thinking. And then when it comes to PE teachers, those types of folks, again, because it was still a bit controversial, there's no nationwide consensus that girls should be playing this. So you've got a few that will do it, and then a vast majority that won't. So there's never going to be an established kind of competition, because there's such disagreement in that community as to whether it's appropriate or not. So yeah, I think a lack of awareness and then differing opinions, I think, probably played a big part.
Well, I think your book gives brings a lot of awareness to the subject for people, just learning the history of it. One final question: I know a lot of your work challenges gender norms, and you represent a lot of people that do challenge gender norms. As you watch the growth of tackle football and flag football happen at the same time, looking at kind of a level of equality, does the growth of flag and tackle football kind of taking a back seat to flag make you feel any sort of way? And do you want to see tackle football grow? And do you think flag is a stepping stone to reach that point? Or do you think that flag is kind of the final stop?
So it's a really tricky one because I generally think that if men are able to do something, then women should be able to do something. So if men have got lots of opportunities to play tackle football, then women should be as well. But in the background of that, there is the knowledge that the sport is inherently dangerous. We know that with things like CTE. So then if you encourage more women to play, you're actually encouraging more women to perhaps struggle with the sorts of issues we're seeing in retired professional footballers. So I think the answer to that one is to make the sport safer for absolutely everybody. And definitely, I think flag football can be a stepping stone to tackle football. I mean, I've coached players who've gone from flag and played tackle for GB and things like that. So it doesn't have to be an end point, but also for some young women and girls, if that is the end point, if you don't want to suit up and play the tackle version, fine, go out there, enjoy all the opportunities that there is for flag football, because as we say, it's expanding. There are lots of opportunities, and that's only going to continue to grow. So it's a complicated one.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. Is there any final thoughts that you wanted to leave anyone about your book or about your work in general?
No, I think the main thing is what I want it to do is restore women's history to their rightful place, but also hopefully be an inspiration to girls and women who might feel they don't have a place in the sport, that it's not a place for them, and basically show them that yeah, girls and women have been playing the sport for nearly 100 years, and so they've got a place in the sport, and they should just go out there and play it if they want to.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This is Katie Taylor, author of Gridiron Invasion, a hidden history of women's football. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
right, everybody, welcome back to the Hometown Sports Huddle on this Monday. Dave Walls here. Special thanks to Zach Card with that great interview with Katie Taylor on her book. Is called Gridiron Invasion. I wanted to make sure I showed it off to you here. The Hidden History of Women in Football. This was it was a really fascinating conversation because I'm sitting here in 2026, having lived all my life on this earth, and I really did not know much about the history of women's football and how far back it stretched. It really, and also the support that it has gotten throughout the years from various sources. You would have thought it was much more divisive during a lot of those years. But to hear Katie talk about it and the support it especially got at the local level certainly gives me a lot of optimism for the growth that women's football could have. Again, Gridiron Invasion, The Hidden History of Women's Football. You can pick it up online. This is through the University of Tennessee Press. But again, just search Gridiron Invasion book and you will find that. And we thank Katie Taylor for her time here on the Hometown Sports Huddle. All right, a couple more minutes here, and I did want to go through some of the trades we have seen so far here at Major League Baseball trades because the deadline hit at 6 o'clock. And I don't know that we saw a blockbuster today, but man, did we see a real flurry of trades go down here at the last minute. And it was just, from 4 to 6, just following the rumors one after the other, really trying to just, keep track of everything was really quite the adventure. So we're going to have to kind of go through it here one by one, but let's see what we can do here. Let's see. Well, I was going to try to put it up on the screen, but it is not working at the moment. So, hey, we will just keep it right here. But the big one that affects us here in this region is the one that ends from Baltimore. Catcher Adley Rutschman with some cash and another player in exchange for 4 minor leaguers, including former Salem Ridgeback Endy Azakar. And, of course, Rutschman has looked at times like a Hall of Famer for the Baltimore Orioles. Now, injuries have slowed his journey over the last 2 years. In fact, as he gets traded today, he's out on the 10-day IL with a wrist injury. But, when he is healthy, he can help lead a turnaround. And certainly Boston would love to have, that kind of boost in their system. But meanwhile, on the other side, Baltimore is getting a lot of top prospects. In fact, Azakar is the number 4 prospect, according to ESPN, in their database, in their farm system, I should say. Also, Anthony Ianson, who is a right-handed pitcher. Kyson Witherspoon has already quickly moved up. He didn't even make a stop in Salem. He immediately went up to high A and was moving very fast, along with Carlos Narvaez. Boy, you know what? He wasn't in Salem that long, and it's apparent because I didn't have to say his name too many times. But he's actually been in the majors for a couple of years. So you're getting 4 prospects for basically Adley Rutschman and some cash. So the Red Sox playing a little bit more of a short game. Meanwhile, Baltimore has basically got 3 prospects and a guy who has been there at the majors for a few years now. And even if one of those prospects hits, it's a pretty good deal for them. So, but Azakar, if you remember, he started in Salem. He was batting .295, 8 home runs, nearly 30 RBIs before getting promoted up to Greenville in June. And then in just 40-some games, he had already blasted 16 more home runs. He was 12 more home runs. 12 more home runs. I want to make sure I get my number right. But still, in just 40-some games, already 12 home runs. So it was really blasting the ball there. So it was coming near 300 batting average on the season, having a career year for the Red Sox farm system, but now he is part of the Baltimore Orioles. Some of the other big trades today, right-handed pitcher Luke Weaver going from the Mets to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Very unusual because the Pirates, trading for some talent in the bullpen, good enough to, help lead a team to the World Series, much like he did with the Yankees in 2024. His 1.84 ERA certainly jumps off the page at you. And meanwhile, the Mets, the one thing that they did right in this is that Weaver had a $22 million salary for the year, and they're able to dump that off. They get a shortstop, minor league shortstop prospect. So again, it comes off as more of a salary dump than an improvement. But still, the Pirates making a move in August. We're not used to seeing that, but certainly their bullpen a little more formidable now. Let's see here. Who else? I'm looking for name talent here. Oh, the Cardinals, of course. The Cardinals and the Brewers Brewers tangling up here in the trade deadline. The Cardinals sending right-handed pitcher Dusty May and also Jojo Romero off to the Milwaukee Brewers. And in return, the Cardinals getting Alexander Frias and Josiah Ragdale, two outfield prospects. Frias only 18 years old. Meanwhile, Ragsdale, you might remember, he just got drafted out of Boston College. So, again, some prospects, but it's the Brewers who are going to get the established talent. Dusty May has not exactly lit up the world, though. His ERA hanging in the mid-4s right now, 5-7 this year. Again, he's having a better year this year. 2025 was a real disaster for him. 2026, he's only given up 7 home runs. His walks per hits, innings pitched ratio is a little bit better this year. 106 strikeouts, 35 walks, only given up 7 homers. So again, there is an upside to the direction where he's going. I wonder if it's a bit of an overreach, but sometimes that's what you do with the deadline. You go, all right, we want that guy. Let's see where the chips fall, and that's what they've done. The Cubs get right-handed pitcher Clay Holmes from the New York Mets. The Mets get an infield prospect, but a really good one right now. Only 21 years old, and right now he's hitting .270 with 15 home runs and 17 steals. That's Jefferson Rojas for the Mets. So a really good prospect that most of the scouts online are very high on. The Astros and the Blue Jays kind of trade relieving. Dalton Varsho goes to the Astros, the outfielder. Toronto gets a kind of mid right-hander arm, and Spencer Arrighetti. Who else do we have here? The Yankees get outfielder Heliot Ramos. The Giants picking up 2 prospects, a left-handed pitcher and an infielder. So, again, we're seeing a lot of prospects go today, not a lot of big names. Who else? And I'm just looking through the list here real quickly. I think that's about, of course, the big one, of course, that came out a few days ago that everybody was talking about. Tarek Skubal goes from the Detroit Tigers to the LA Dodgers. And, again, Skubal is quite frankly, one of the, if not the best pitcher in the game right now. A left-handed arm to the Dodgers. I mean, it's funny because the reaction wasn't, whoa, how did the Dodgers pull this off to? This is what's going to cause a shutdown. I think that's a full half-hour conversation we need to start having with, do the Dodgers have too many toys? Do the Dodgers, are they the reason we're going to get a salary cap and there's going to be a lockout? And it's kind of hard to not argue that case because, I mean, look at the roster the Dodgers have right now. They have hitters, their roster right now, hitters ranked 2, 7, 15, 25, 30, and 33. You got Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Kyle Tucker, Max Muncy, and Will Smith. They've got some of the top relievers in Tanner Scott, Evan Phillips, Alex Vesia, and Edwin Diaz. And the rotation has already got 4 of the top 10 in all of major leagues right now. It's Skubal, Ohtani, Blake Snell, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Tyler Glasnow's also in there in the top 25. I mean, it's an all-star game. That's frankly what it is. I mean, you're going to have to catch multiple players on a bad night to beat the Dodgers in a series. That's just what it is. And so, so again, the Dodgers get Tarek Skubal, and the Tigers get, what did the Tigers get? Does it really matter? I mean, I say that sincerely because you give up a prospect like that, the Tigers get 3 prospects. An outfielder and 2 right-handed pitchers that don't really have any numbers to speak of. Meanwhile, Skubal this year, 7-5, the win-loss record a little bit, misleading. 2.79 ERA, already 116 strikeouts on the year. I mean, again, he's been there, he's done that, and the other thing is he's only 29 years old. So, I mean, he's going to be with Los Angeles for a long time if the Dodgers want him. And frankly, I could see no reason why they wouldn't. So that's where we stand right now at the Major League Baseball deadline. All right, as we wrap up, we have more college football to come later this week. Liberty's hosting press conferences Wednesday. Virginia Tech will have some on Thursday. Their big media kickoff to fall camp is over the weekend. So, again, we'll have a lot of that next week here on the Huddle. Tomorrow we'll be talking more high school football. We're going to dig back into the high school here as the rain kind of postponed things up a little bit, but we got lots of interviews with our area teams, and we'll be starting to play some more of them tomorrow right here in the Hometown Sports Huddle. We hope you are here for that as well. But that's going to do it for tonight. I'm Dave Walls. Thanks again to Zach Card for a great job with that interview with Katie Taylor. Again, the book Gridiron Invasion, The Hidden History of Women in Football, and be sure to look for that. It is a fascinating read. That's all for the Huddle. Take care. Have a great night.